Welcome to the NitWits, a weekly roundtable discussion on the Penn State Nittany Lions, now in its 24th season. Our panel features a longtime Penn State media and NitWits tag team, Neil Rudell of the Altoona Mirror and Mark Brennan of Lions 24/7 with Fight on State. Between them, they've covered Penn State for more than 75 years. The NitWits are hosted by WTAJ's Anderly Penwell, and each week we welcome a former Nittany Lion as our special guest analyst. The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, a firm foundation for your financial future. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, carpet cleaning, and rug cleaning. By Reed and Solani Orthodontics, providing friendly, family-focused orthodontic care in Altoona, Bedford, and Huntington. By McAleer's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886. By Remax Results Realty Group, committed to a culture of professionalism, productivity, and exceptional service. By Dorman's Jewelry, the answer is always Dorman's. By Star Beverage, no matter what type of weather, we are a convenient drive-through one-stop beer store. By Kogan Electric, lighting the way for you. By NovaCare, Altoona and State College, we proudly support Penn State football. By Quattrini Rafferty, attorneys at law, Michael Rooch, peace of mind after an injury or illness. By Lions 24/7 with Fight on State, your online home for Penn State football and recruiting coverage. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Monday.
Welcome to Nittany Nation Overtime.
Hello and welcome to Nittany Nation Overtime, our final show of the season, great 2021-2022 season. I'm Anderly Penwell. I'm joined by Mark Brennan, Neil Riddell, and our guest, Joe Nastasi. He's bookending the year for us. Guys, Happy New Year.
Thank you.
How was Florida?
Happy New Year. Yeah, everything went well there except for the game.
Pretty much. Want to get right into it, Neil?
Yeah, everybody covers Penn State football different ways. You know, I always go back and look at the tape the next day because you can see it a heck of a lot better. Do you see what the announcers say too? You know, when I just got done watching the replay, and I felt worse about the replay than I did about the game. I really have not been this discouraged about a performance and a direction that they took. I mean, there were some guys that had moments and played well, but as far as an offense and a quarterback situation, I think they really, there's a lot of uncertainty going into this year.
Yeah, you know, the bookmakers in Las Vegas are usually so spot on, and they initially established Penn State as a slight favorite in this game, and I could have seen that if both teams were at full strength. But for Arkansas to only be a slight favorite going into this at game time, I don't know what anybody was looking at. I mean, I thought Penn State was fortunate probably to lose by only as much as they did. To me, the main takeaway from that game and this season is, you know, we could get into all the weeds and the grass and everything, but offensively, they have to establish an identity. They didn't know what the heck they were doing for the most part of the season, especially during those last 7 or 8 games. And when it looked like there were instances where they could pass like crazy against a Michigan State, they didn't do it. In this game, you had Kevon Lee, who was averaging 8 yards per carry and gets 1 touch in the second half. I just think, the common denominator to me, I think James Franklin is a super smart guy, way smarter than me. But they have to figure out their lines of communication on offense. That's what it comes down to me. Something isn't quite right, and it's been that way with a couple of coordinators now. And that's, I'm not looking at individual things in this game in particular, but coming out of that game, they don't have an offensive identity. They haven't all season.
And Joe, what do you think those meeting rooms look like? Is that complete chaos?
Well, I want to know who won the season-long bet. I mean, you know what I mean? Was I close?
I'm surprised you would bring that up. You picked her to be undefeated.
No, I get it. You know, I watch that just like everybody else watched every game, and you have your ups and downs. We're so invested. I'm so invested from a Letterman standpoint, and I watch it, and you always. for me, I always try to take away everything that I can positive, and you look at it, and there's just so many moving parts, and we've talked about it, and there's so much meat on the bone of like the NIL and all that information going on right now, and the opt-outs. There's just so much going on. It's difficult from really when you look at it from week to week, like who's there. I mean, this is such a high level sport, high level game, and so much talent that if you are not all the way in, that's kind of what you're going to have. And it felt like that. It felt like almost like a blue-white game. I mean, in a sense of what they were doing. It was like what Mark's saying about what they were trying to figure out. Are we going to do this? Are we going to do that? Or we're looking. Because if we win that game, do we feel any different? I mean, I look at a lot of these games. There was really all those bowl games you watch. What team goes out there saying, okay, I feel good about going in next year? I don't know, because all the transfer portal. Your team is going to look a lot different than it did January 1 than it's going to look when you start up in August.
Well, they're asking too much of Sean Clifford. I mean, you look at this game, and, to your point about the identity, I mean, they were living on Arkansas's side of the field, and yet they got in there right away, and they didn't run the ball. And James has been talking for a month about how they need to run the ball better. So there's a disconnect between him and Yurcich, and then James is the common denominator between Yurcich and Shiraka. So, I just didn't get it. I mean, you got interceptions on first down. The complimentary football wasn't there. Penn State gets an interception, and Sean throws it right back to them. They really need to, and I agree. Lee, I thought, looked pretty good. I don't know what they were doing.
Yeah, when you say they're asking too much of Sean Clifford, though, I mean, in defense of the coaching staff, he missed a wide open Theo Johnson for a touchdown.
Yeah.
He had an interception in the end zone that was thrown to Theo Johnson was the only guy who couldn't catch it. The Arkansas defenders are early in the game. He had a grounding call that was just, what was he even thinking? So in defense of the coaching staff, Sean Clifford, for a veteran player, has to be better than he was.
Yeah.
I would also say the defense in that game, as much as it was gashed for yards on the ground, if you would have told me going into that game that defense was going to give up 24 points, I would have thought Penn State had a decent chance. My score was Arkansas 24, Penn State 20. So I thought that Penn State would have had an opportunity. Given everything the defense lost, I thought they played relatively well, and that's why I think it all comes back to the offense. They just really have to take a step back. The offensive line has been out of sorts for multiple years now. They have to take a step back and evaluate not necessarily the X's and O's, but there seems to be something in the communication there during games that just is not working.
With Sean coming back for that sixth year, what do you think the whole quarterback room will look like next year with Pribula and Allers coming in? And, I mean, do you move on from a guy who will be going into his sixth year?
You know what? I don't even know if that's exactly what the room's going to look like. I mean, I'm not exactly sure about how the transfer portal works until what time. But, I mean, you look at it, and I'm sure that they're shopping as we speak. I mean, I don't. This is something that's going to last forever now. I mean, the way this is set up, your team that you saw on January 1 could well have been a scrimmage, and now they're getting ready to put the pieces into place for next year through the transfer portal. You just don't know. And I mean, from a fan's perspective, they want to root for the guys, the team. But unfortunately, you're just going to root for the blue and white and whoever ends up showing up in that uniform. And I hate to sound like that. But looking at from when we played and what it is now, it is individual, it is money, and it's going to come down to year on what you have. I mean, Michigan State's a great example. I mean, they were not good at all last year. This year, they turned around and have, 11, 12 wins based on the transfer portal alone. They just plugged and played.
Well, there's going to be a lot of pressure on Sean coming back for a 6 year. Yeah, he's a Band-Aid, has some experience with a real rugged schedule the first half of the season, but the way it went, I mean, you really wonder, did they let, Levis left and had a better year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they have to open it up in the spring. And having said that, it's going to be a big ask for Vayu or either of the two kids to climb that mountain and to pass Sean Clifford. So I don't necessarily think it's going to happen, but I do think they have to throw it open. To Joe's point, I think what you're getting at is, do they go out and get a quarterback in the portal? That could be a difficult thing to do given the players that they have. right now. I mean, Clifford's a guy coming back for his 18th year, and you've recruited very well at that position. We'll see if anything happens, but I do think they have to at least make it competitive. This can't be a deal where in the spring they just say, listen, it's Clifford's job. I do think they have to throw it open. This way, if somebody is good enough, those 2 freshmen are both enrolling this month. If somebody's good enough, they deserve the opportunity to do it. I just think it's a big climb.
They
want
to win now.
Yeah.
They want to win now. They get that kid from Oklahoma or something like that. I mean, again, it's changing dramatically.
Well, that to me sends a worse message to Aller and Perbola than it would be to Clifford.
And it could. This is what we have. I mean,
it's the new normal. It's the new normal. Joe, I guess exactly where you're coming from, and we have to also say that as we tape this. Things may happen before the show actually runs, but it is worth throwing out there that that's in play. The transfer portal's in play.
Right. Things may change this afternoon. We live in a crazy world. Coming after a break, more thoughts and concerns about the Outback Bowl.
The NitWits are being brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, a firm foundation for your financial future. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, carpet cleaning, and rug cleaning. By Reed and Selaney Orthodontics, providing friendly, family-focused orthodontic care in Altoona, Bedford, and Huntington. By McAleer's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886.
You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
Welcome back to Nittany Nation Overtime, our last show of the season. Guys, any other thoughts? I'm sure we might have a couple thoughts, just an opinionated bunch.
We beat up the offensive line for a while. I really didn't think they played that bad in this game. They only allowed a sack. They rammed the ball, pretty effectively. Kane busted one for 18 yards. Kevon Lee, that's the best he's looked this year. He had a 25-yarder, averaged 8 yards. He only got 5 carries. But I thought the O-line, and they transitioned to a couple younger guys, did okay.
Yeah, Olu Fashanu coming in and playing in place of Rasheed Walker. I mean, I was surprised he played as well as he did. I like Juice Scruggs moving over to center. That seems like it's something that probably should have been done a while ago. And moving Landon Tangwell in there, one of the true freshmen at guard for a while. That was one of those games. Again, I mentioned it. You finally get a good play from your offensive line, and you don't take advantage of it. So I'm scratching my head on that just a little bit.
Yeah, to me, you guys said it all pretty much. The game and the feel and just really being able to take control up there is so important. I mean, we watch it all the time because we all watch a lot of football. And when you take control of the trenches, I mean, it sets the tone. You get a team that's running the ball well, just like Arkansas was. You felt we were dying that slow death because they, in that second half, just got that momentum, something that we've never been able to establish this year from a run game perspective. I've always said it, championship teams run the ball and stop the run. That doesn't mean you have to be an all-run team. It just means you better have a 4-minute offense and you can take the clock and finish the game.
Been a problem for really 8 years.
Yeah.
Tarburton, Jacobs, Smith-Wilbert, some of these guys really accounted themselves, I thought, pretty well on defense.
Yeah, I mean, all things considered, given all the players that they lost on defense, I thought they played about as well as they could. I really like the move of Curtis Jacobs from the field linebacker spot into the box. I'm wondering if that's something they shouldn't have done earlier in the year. He just seems like a more natural hitter than Brandon Smith was, maybe not to the level of Ellis Brooks, who I thought played well for most of the season. Right. And then, in the secondary, Keaton Ellis came in and I think did some good things in place of Brisker. It's very hard to judge that effort. The one thing I would say is I think Arkansas played right into their hands by trying to throw the ball in the first half, which was kind of crazy. But J.R. Brown, coming through to have that guy coming back, and Joey Porter Jr., those are both big things. I think our defense is going to be in pretty good shape next year with P.J. Mustafa coming back as well.
Yeah, that's a big deal. That's the best news they've had in a month.
Yeah, him being in there. I'm sorry.
And then switching gears, this is a loaded question, but looking at the offense under Yurcich, how can we assess this year? And, I mean, if we're comfortable giving it a grade, where do we think it stands? Because I think it's definitely had its ups and downs throughout the entire year.
Yeah, well, I mean, they really need to reorganize their thinking here on, I don't know if it was he had a lot of success in the Big 12 because they can't stop anybody, and playing in the Big 10 is a different brand of football. I don't know enough to blame the trick plays on him, but I think they need to be addressed Also, there's a new special teams coach coming in. I'm hoping he doesn't bring any more of these gadget plays where your punter's trying to throw. I mean, again, on what you're doing, I have no idea on a couple of those situations this year.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at it, and I saw the stat that we're 13 in rush yardage in the Big Ten, you know, you look at it, and if you would have asked me that before, I would have said we would have definitely been in the top 3 or 4. The way that the running back room looked, and you know, the offensive linemen, they were expecting to be, you know, pros. You're figuring that combination, you're probably in pretty good shape to be able to run the football. I think to your point, Neil, what you're talking about too is that, you know, maybe this was a situation where, hey, the Big Ten plays a little bit of a different style. What maybe I could get guys running around here down to Big 12 isn't going to work so well here. I don't know. I mean, again, we're not there day in and day out, but again, we had and have enough talent on the football team to be, you know, look, we were really out of no games this year. So, you know, you could, if you take all the positives, you were a team that was knocking on the door. Now, did it feel like we were going to win it? You know, there was times in there where you felt like you could, but you're knocking on the door. Ohio State, Michigan State, every game you were in. There's a lot of teams that can't say that this year about any of the games they played in.
I think Yurcich deserves the benefit of the doubt. He has a proven track record. This was his first year. He did work in the Big Ten in a little different capacity at Ohio State a couple years ago. But this is where it's important to take, as I said, I think they have to take a step back and think through the communications on that entire side of the ball, offensive line, the play calling in general. What impact does Franklin have? These are all very smart people. I think they could get it done. But listen, you stick with it here, reevaluate, self-scout, give this guy a second year. He's going to have a second year, and he deserves it, and I think deserves the benefit of the doubt. And let's see where they go, because the talent's there. And as Joe said, I think they were right there, but it just has to be on game day, better decision making.
There were too many instances in this game where the play clock was ticking. James had to win a wind sprint, you know, for a timeout. But you know, clearly, you know, that's the challenge. The biggest challenge is on that side of the ball, and they need stability. I mean, to run in another offensive coordinator, I don't think would do anybody.
Same thing with the
good.
O-line. I mean, we've seen that obviously different coaches. Again, the common denominator is James Franklin, and I'm not knocking him because he has a pretty good track record at Penn State as well.
Right.
But and again, he is smart enough that they will take a step back, self-scout, reevaluate, and he knows that. I mean, if we see it, they see it.
All right, and on that note, we'll be right back after a quick break with the Opt-Out Bowl.
The NitWits are being brought to you by RE/MAX Results Realty Group, committed to a culture of professionalism, productivity, and exceptional service. By Dorman's Jewelry, the answer is always Dorman's. By Star Beverage, no matter what type of weather, we are a convenient drive-through one-stop beer store. By Kogan Electric, lighting the way for you.
You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
So in the Outback Bowl, Penn State had 6 guys opting out: Jaquan Brisker, Ellis Brooks, Jahan Dotson, Arnold Ebiketie, Brandon Smith, Derek D'Angelo, all that playing, and plus Drake Castro Fields out with an injury. 6 guys out, 5 on the defense. What are your general thoughts on opting out and what this looked like for the team?
I know these guys really want to dive into a different aspect of it. So this is the new normal. This is what's going to happen. I would think that, you know, people would understand guys like Brisker, Dotson, and Ebiketie. That made perfect sense. They were not going to help themselves. You know, if they were healthy, I think D'Angelo and Ellis Brooks and Brandon Smith all could have helped themselves by playing in this game. I thought that if they were healthy, I think those guys made mistakes, because I don't think, especially D'Angelo and Ellis Brooks, I don't think they're locks to even be drafted. I think they could have come and done some things in this game, again, if they were healthy. But this is how it's going to be, and this is what college football set itself up for, so get used to it.
So talking about the new normal, one of the new things this year, of course, is the NIL. I know you guys have a lot of thoughts on it. Joe, what are your general?
Yeah,
he's mad they didn't have it when he.
You know, I could have been that perfect beard model. I would have been.
question.
You know, I had all kinds of marketing
Pizza.
tools, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, I just don't. I was just born too early. But no, you know, you look at it and there's so much meat on this bone, you can't even begin. But I think every situation's a little different with this. It's not a one-size-fits-all scenario. But I think what happened is with with everybody being so aware of how much money is involved in the game from a coaching, administrative, school standpoint, all the revenue generated by that the kids understand that they are a part of that link, and them saying the free education, it's really not free. I mean, we could, it's not a free education, from what we did out there, some better than others, but them having an opportunity to get some of that doesn't come from the university, so the dynamic is very strange because you don't have this contract between a school and an individual. Now the recruiting, and I've talked about it before, is controlled by the alumni. So the alumni are going to be able to help recruit.
And the agents, right?
Correct. So there's no more, I don't want to say no more, come in here, be a good student, get a good education, 4 years, 5 years later, you leave here with a degree and an opportunity at the NFL. Now it's now, and what can you do for me now, and how much am I going to get now? And there's just so much to that. And, we just have to, like what Mark was saying, you have to be used to it because it's not going to change, and you're not going to have that built class. That freshman class is good. They really got better as sophomores. By the time they're junior, seniors, we should really have a run at this title game. It's what is Penn State going to do next year with all the transfers, and who are we able to basically have come in here that received the NIL that alumni set up for them.
Well, I just wonder what effect that has on the team. Clifford was a little, definitely, he was clearly frustrated with it. He said they got to do something about this, how it affects the bowl system. And I wonder what division that creates within the team. Hey, the predominant, you mentioned about the coaches, the predominant storyline all year was what was going to happen with James. These players are seeing and watching that. The guy of all that list that I really admire is Jesse Luketa. I mean, He went out there, he helped himself, and he helped his team at the end of his career. And, I think there's something to be said for that. Yeah. Brisker and Dodson, guys that could be first, second rounders. Yeah, I get that, I guess, but I'm sorry to see what's taken away from the team.
Well, hey, one more thing, though, is if you got a first rounder, second rounder, okay, if you're getting that good advice. But after that, the league wants to see guys that can play. Right. Okay, so like you said with Luketa, he goes out there. I have no question that he upped his draft status just because, number one, he showed how much he cares about the game. Because remember, you're starting to get guys now like, I care about me. We just saw one this week against the Jets that says it's me. They want some guys that are going to win too. Yeah. Yes, it is an I-me game. I understand that, and it's all about the bag. We understand that too. But what he did, and I believe that he wasn't a first rounder, but he went out there and did that. Now, if he runs well, they're going to say, look at this, and then look at this game, and here's how he finished.
All right. After a quick break, we'll say our final goodbyes and other thoughts to wrap up the season.
The NitWits are being brought to you by NovaCare, Altoona and State College. We proudly support Penn State football. By Quattrini Rafferty, attorneys at law. Michael Rooch. Peace of mind after an injury or illness. By Lions 24/7 with Fight on State, your online home for Penn State football and recruiting coverage. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Monday.
You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
Okay, this is our traditional end. We want to thank everybody, for the staff. It's our 24th year as the Nitwits, 13th year on WTAJ. I want to thank Phil Dubrow, Dave Beeney, Chris Owens, Tanner Krekel, Ethan Zerby, and our hosts this year, Andrew Clay, and Ryan Riskey. I want to thank Pat Waxmunski of the Mirror, Victor Kerfman of the Public Access Channel, and Lions 24/7 with Fight on State for posting the podcast. Our guest nitwits, Joe, Mike Irwin, Wally, Steve Smear, Justin Karpakis, Bill Kantz, Goon, Massimo Manka, Shane McGregor, Roger Corey, and our honorary nitwit, Sandy Barber. Special kudos to Anderly, for sure our Rookie of the Year, our Nitwit of the Year, and she even had her mom in here once. So most of all, we appreciate the viewership, all the feedback. Brennan can't even go out in State College to the grocery store. He gets stopped left.
Love when people say, hey, you're a nitwit, because I am. And hey, shout out to Barry Rudell, our biggest fan, for giving us feedback every week.
All right. Well, thank you so much for watching this year. We will see you next year.
The NitWits are being brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, a firm foundation for your financial future. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, carpet cleaning, and rug cleaning. By Reed and Salaney Orthodontics, providing friendly, family-focused orthodontic care in Altoona, Bedford, and Huntington. By McAleer's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886. By Remax Results Realty Group, committed to a culture of professionalism, productivity, and exceptional service. By Dorman's Jewelry, the answer is always Dorman's. By Star Beverage, no matter what type of weather, we are a convenient drive-through one-stop beer store. By Kogan Electric, lighting the way for you. By NovaCare, Altoona and State College, we proudly support Penn State football. By Quattrini Rafferty, attorneys at law, Michael Rooch, peace of mind after an injury or illness. By Lions 24/7 with Fight on State, your online home for Penn State football and recruiting coverage. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Monday. Thanks for watching.